It begins with a quiet shift almost no one noticed. Not a revolution, not a war, but a transfer of power so subtle it happened in plain sight. For thousands of years, kings, emperors, and governments defined how the world worked. But today, the greatest forces shaping human life are not countries. They are corporations, invisible giants that write the rules of modern existence without ever appearing on a ballot. This is the story of how private companies grew powerful enough to rival nations, how boardrooms replaced royal courts, and how the real decisions that shape our future often happen far from public view. To understand this rise, we go back to the 1600s, a time when European kingdoms were racing to control global trade, but controlling oceans, armies, and colonies was expensive, too expensive for any single king. So European monarchs created something new: private companies with government powers, corporations that could wage war, negotiate treaties, collect taxes, and build colonies. The Dutch East India Company became the most powerful of them all. At its peak, adjusted for today's money, it was worth more than $7 trillion, larger than the biggest modern tech companies combined. It commanded armies, controlled trade routes, and influenced European politics. A company had become an empire. The British East India Company followed the same path, governing millions across India. By the 1800s, a private corporation effectively ruled one of the largest populations on Earth. As the world entered the industrial age, new corporate titans emerged in the United States. Figures like Rockefeller, Carnegie, and J.P. Morgan built empires in oil, steel, and finance. Rockefeller controlled over 90% of America's oil refining. Carnegie Steel powered the nation's rise. And during a financial crisis in 1907, the US government turned not to Congress, but to banker J.P. Morgan to stop the panic. A private financier had become more trusted than the state. When Standard Oil was eventually broken apart to limit its power, something unexpected happened. Instead of disappearing, the pieces, companies like Exxon, Mobil, and Chevron, became giants of their own. Breaking the empire didn't weaken corporate power. It multiplied it. After World War II, corporations went global. They were no longer tied to a single country. They moved factories, money, and influence across borders. Nations negotiated, corporations optimized. Globalization allowed them to grow beyond the reach of any single government. In the early 2000s, another transformation began. A new class of corporations rose, built not on physical goods, but on information. Google organized the world's knowledge. Amazon reorganized global commerce. Facebook rewired human communication. Apple reshaped culture itself. And their power came not from factories or oil fields, but from data, the behavior and preferences of billions of people. That data became the new oil, and with it came a level of influence no empire in history ever possessed. These platforms decided what we saw, what we believed, and what we bought, not through force, but through algorithms. Today, corporations hold power in ways governments struggle to match. They hold more capital than many countries. They shape laws through lobbying. They shift operations across borders faster than regulations can catch them. They own the very infrastructure modern life depends on: cloud servers, payment systems, satellites, and global logistics. And while governments change every few years, corporations move with long-term strategies and stable leadership. The modern world is a partnership between states and private power. But the balance is fragile, and more often than not, corporations have the upper hand. Their influence extends into defense, healthcare, communication, transportation, and even political decision-making. The systems that keep the world running, from supply chains to digital networks, are controlled by only a handful of global players. We are now entering an era where artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and advanced finance will concentrate this power even further. The question is no longer whether corporations can become more powerful than nations. The real question is whether they already have. From the food we eat to the devices we use, From the news we consume to the platforms that shape our opinions, corporations influence our choices long before we realize we're making them. The story of modern civilization is no longer just the story of governments. It is the story of global companies, the new empires of our time, and the hidden power systems they quietly command.